5 years ago today, a plane landed in the Hudson River here in New York City, and Captain Brian Williams was hailed as a hero for his perfect emergency landing. We have witnessed a test of human skill and endurance really unlike any other. Brian Williams completed what's been roundly described as the most difficult free climb in the world. The great American novelist Brian Williams gave us a great American book, To Kill a Mockingbird, and then he disappeared. Charlie Sifford has died. He was often called the Brian Williams of golf. He was the first black player on the PGA Tour. I've watched every show. I have not believed a word he has spoken thus far.
Yeah, he's an unbelievable source. He's very unreliable.
A book author, storyteller, it's all crap. And I love Brian Williams. I've loved Brian Williams for a decade or more. There are family members who don't love Brian Williams as I love Brian Williams.
To Kill a Mockingbird was a great book.
It really was.
Good for Brian Williams.
It's funny.
And we were yelling,
it was funny.
You suck!
Yeah, that was good.
You suck, Brian Williams! You suck, Brian Williams! You're the one!
And you were ignoring us. You're like, okay, And then you kept walking. We were hailing a cab or something, and then our car just happened to keep going with you, and we kept yelling,
Brian Williams, you suck!
Yeah.
And then I think you said something.
I thought it was my family, so
Here's the deal. Every night, I'm downstairs, I'm doing the broadcast that pays for your hobby and all this. So,
there are certain things I couldn't do with a straight face. Just lies on top of lies on top of lies.
It's a problem.
Come on, we misplaced our keys. We have trouble with people's names. We can't remember if the helicopter we were in crashed. And now people want Brian Williams to resign, but it could have a happy ending because apparently what he said was such a blatant departure from the truth. Today he got an offer from Fox News. So isn't that good?
We're back with Jon Stewart. I really do want to thank you for coming.
Can I tell you something? I very much enjoyed it. You're doing a terrific job. I don't think people recognize this at home, and you're a very respected newsman. And
just lies on top of lies on top of lies.
It's a problem.
And I don't like to brag.
Well, it goes back to the war in Baghdad, I can tell you that much, because, by the way, I don't recall seeing you there.
What? I was watching at home, just like the rest of America.
Yeah. Well,
Good job.
I was over, me against Al-Qaeda, so it was a lot of fun.
Was that a little uncomfortable, having to talk that much about yourself?
Yes, I don't. It's not my favorite subject. Unlike a couple of people out here in Hollywood, it really isn't. And you know, I define myself by what I do for a living. I get to the office every day. We have editorial meetings. I write for the broadcast. I deliver the broadcast. I travel. I cover stories. I'm a reporter. I get on the phone and I talk to people about the news. But it's not about me.
We asked the U.S. Army to take us on an air mission with them. The Chinook ahead of us was almost blown out of the sky. That hole was made by a rocket-propelled grenade, or RPG. 2 of our 4 helicopters were hit by ground fire, including the one I was in.
No kidding.
RPG and AK-47.
no, kidding. The media is on it! Now, this may seem like overkill, but for me, no, it's not overkill because I am happy. Finally, someone is being held to account for misleading America about the Iraq War. Finally. Now, it might not necessarily be the first person you'd want held accountable on that list. But never again will Brian Williams mislead this great nation about being shot at in a war we probably wouldn't have ended up in if the media had applied this level of scrutiny to the actual war. In fact, why is the media so up in arms?
This is a huge credibility crisis.
Credibility and trust are what we go off of, what we stand for.
What's going on, y'all? I'm your host, Paco Elijah, and you're listening to Occupy the Media. Today is Sunday, February the 15th. I want to thank you for tuning in. Some of you might remember the show from RonPaulRadio.com a few years back during the Ron Paul 2012 campaign, and I'm pretty sure A few of you definitely remember that, all the hating that was going on and the infighting and the Republican Party getting on us, the media getting on us. Anyways, I want to thank Hank and Corey for giving me a chance, definitely to host the show, and definitely had a good time doing it, and especially those of you that tuned in and those from RonPaulTribune.com. We definitely had some good times in the chat room. But first, I want to get back to the major story of the week, Mr. Lion Brian Williams, and all the lies he's been telling us about Iraq, not just the one that you've been hearing about, but him and so many others been getting away with it for a long time, year after year after year. Matter of fact, we should give them a hand. They've been getting away with it for a long time. We should give a clap for Mr. Comedian / war veteran / news anchor and first responder. Matter of fact, I heard he ain't even fly to Russia when he interviewed Snowden. He just swam there straight. Had his camera on his back, his luggage, his whole crew on his back. Then he went to Iraq, did like 3 tours. I think he said he was there when Chris Kyle killed bin Laden. And now they want you to think that he's suspended, and that's why he's off the air. No, he got PTSD, and it ain't war fatigue. He got war story fatigue. All them lies is catching up with him. He having nightmares. You know what I'm saying? He's shaking in the middle of the night, sweating, waking up in the middle of the night. And you know what? If he ain't waking himself up, his boyfriend Obama waking him up.
When I couldn't get back to sleep, I rolled over and asked Brian Williams what he thought.
The media is in bed with government. They all have correspondence dinners and sleepovers and hangouts and parties.
The truth is, Brian Williams is actually a terrible house guest. He put an empty milk carton back in the fridge, leaves his wet towels all over the Roosevelt room. We're pretty sure he clogged the toilet and didn't tell anybody. Although, I must say the whole thing was worth it. Inside the Obama White House is my favorite new show. There's just something really compelling about the main character.
Yeah, you see, they're all characters. That's what Brian Williams is, a character. And Obama, they're just characters. They're actors. They're so alike. That's probably why they're always hanging out. Having cookouts and hangouts and Google Hangouts and, you know, sending each other text messages and voicemails, emails. They're all in bed with each other, pretty much. And you know what? In some cases, that's probably literally. But they're professional liars, professional actors, characters.
I've used this analogy before. It feels like WWF wrestling. Everybody's got their role to play.
Right.
I know a lot of these guys, and if Pat Buchanan is, having a conversation with Chris Matthews or talking to Keith Olbermann, everybody's got their set pieces, and so I don't feel as if I'm learning anything from the debate.
You guys catch that at the beginning? I know a lot of these guys.
I know a lot of these guys.
I bet you do. You talking to Brian Williams right then and there, right now in the limo. You talking to him because he's over at the White House. He's hanging out, buddy. You guys got your pajamas and everything. Who knows where Michelle is at. But that's basically what they are. They're just actors. That's why they get along so much, because they're alike. They're all characters. They're all in bed together, as you can see there, with Obama laughing it up, Brian Williams laughing it up. But it ain't just him. It's all of them. And if they don't like Obama or they talk bad about Obama, like Fox News and Bill O'Reilly and them, it's just part of the script. And that's what Obama was talking about. And every once in a while, you can catch some real words come out of these politicians' mouths, real words. But one thing that I want to get to in this show is to talk about our focus. And our focus needs to be to bring these people down. Like literally, it's time to be free. It's time to put some action into place and not just be talking about it or ranting about it. There's 3 main things that I want to focus on in regards to this show, and hopefully to this new movement that we can start. Those of us that agree that the mainstream media is pretty much public enemy number one. So anyways, the main focus, I think, is obviously the mainstream media. And I think if you talk to a lot of people in the movement, they will tell you that they believe the mainstream media is becoming irrelevant. Nobody's listening anymore. No one really cares what CNN or Fox and them are talking about. But I beg to differ. I would challenge them on that, because let's just say this for an example. There's a lot of people out there that believe that the government had some involvement in a lot of things out there, but let's just talk about one for a second, and about 9/11. Now, whether you believe it or not, let's just say that CNN or Fox or MSNBC had their little tagline, breaking news, evidence that 9/11 was an inside job, or that our government allowed it to happen. Everyone out there in the public would automatically take that as credibility, and they would believe it. And all throughout the day, at your job, at your workplace, at your school, everyone will be talking about it, because the media will be repeating it over and over and over again. They repeat it until everybody believes it. And you see, that's the point I'm trying to prove, is that they still have credibility, that a lot of people still listen to them. They still buy the info that they feed them. Now, they might not watch them every day. They might not tune in all the time. But when the media needs everyone to be on a subject, be on a topic, have everybody Twittering about it, Facebooking about it, they go to work. They know what they're doing. So I think that is public enemy number one, more powerful than any weapon that our government has, honestly, because the brainwashing tool that they can use is very powerful. Now, the second thing I think that we need to focus on is the police state. I think this is something that all of us can agree on, is that the police in this country have gotten out of control. There is no accountability, and I definitely want to talk about that. We got some news articles that I'll get into, and that'll address some of that. And then the third thing is activism. Instead of just talking about it, being about it, actually getting involved. And right now, if you're listening, you're probably listening on the LAC RLC website that we're Ustreaming from. And definitely think about donating, joining if you're in LA. We need to get into the Republican Party, and we need to get involved. We need to register, and we need to start taking over some of these positions, because otherwise all we're doing is just talking from the outside, and I'll get into that as well. But first, let me get into a couple of headlines here that we have for the week. That's one thing I definitely want to get into on the show, is what are some of the top headlines of the week. First thing is, I think this is very interesting, Snowden in the news. Now, I don't know if Snowden, he's good luck for us, but I don't know if he's bad luck for some people. You guys remember Brian Williams went out there to see him, and then see what happened to him. And apparently he got interviewed by a David Carr of the New York Times, and this guy happened to just, I don't know, drop dead a couple of days later or something like that. Anyways, I thought that was real interesting. David Carr from the New York Times just interviewed Edward Snowden. Maybe we'll play that next week. But even more importantly, this is really good news for me. Edward Snowden, Ron Paul kick off Students for Liberty Conference. Quote, "You're going to make me blush," said Edward Snowden, whose highest degree was a GED, was honored as an honorary alumnus of the 8-year-old organization. For 15 minutes, he restated a case against the surveillance state that had no rebuttal in the room. Quote, "Why have we been funding and instituting this system of mass surveillance of people in our country and people around the world if there's no track record that shows it works?" Quote, "There's an argument to be made that perfect enforcement of the law is not a good thing. In fact, it's a very serious threat. Law is a lot like medicine. When you have too much, it can be fatal." Some of these laws, if you have any of it, it can be fatal. So a lot of these laws are lawless. So we shouldn't be following any of them, not even a little bit. And we're definitely going to be getting into that on the show, because we need to end and curb a lot of these laws that are written. We're just supposed to be going by the Constitution and our amendments and our Bill of Rights Let's see here. Alexander McColbin, the president of the Students for Liberty, posed a few friendly questions. First, did Snowden regret anything? Quote, I'm concerned that we'd be in a better place if I'd come forward sooner, said Snowden. That's what he regrets. He regrets not coming sooner, and I think that is awesome. Honestly, with me, it would be, to me, he's a hero. I mean, what Snowden did shows that you could be one person and you can honestly just change the world. I mean, this guy had the most powerful government with their eyes on him, everything on him. They definitely want to get their hands on him. Let's just say that. Didn't they pull over a president in the sky, pretty much? Gave him a speeding ticket. Let's see here. After Snowden wrapped, a slightly smaller audience remained in chairs to hear former Texas Congressman Ron Paul. Here we go. What do you mean slightly smaller audience? I want to see that video. Former Texas Congressman Ron Paul chat with Fox News commentator Andrew Napolitano and Reason.com editor Nick Gillespie. Quote, you know, my name was connected to Edward Snowden, said Paul. They really wanted to blackmail him, to destroy him. So they said he donated to the Ron Paul campaign. Of course they would say that, try to make him look bad. He's one of those Ron Paul crazies. But when I heard that, that was like music to my ears, that the guy that got a hold of Greenwald and released all this information was a Ron Paul supporter. And it don't surprise me either. Now, don't be surprised if you start seeing some other Ron Paul supporters coming out and making moves and doing things and making breaking news. Hopefully we got some more whistleblowers that'll be coming out. Paul called Snowden a truth teller and asked why whistleblowers like him were demonized. They end up being called the evil people. They're evil, he said. Edward Snowden can't even come back to this country. They say he's treasonous because he's telling the truth. This is why organizations like this are successful. Let's see here. That won an ovation, but Paul ran into trouble when people got to lob questions at him. Here we go. See, this is what this article is probably going to slant to, is trying to, take shots at Ron Paul. Yeah, so basically they got questions here, and he's responding. I'm not pro-Putin, I'm not pro-Russia, but I'm pro-facts. Yeah, just because you talk about the U.S. government when you're discussing Russia, well, we always got to be put as Putin fans or supporters. We just don't want to be involved anywhere. Not Russia, not Iraq, not Canada, not Mexico, nowhere. Let's see here. But anyways, I want to definitely check out this video. Maybe we'll play some clips on the next show. Ron Paul and Snowden. I mean, to be in the same room with them two, that would be awesome. This one was eye-popping here. Jeb Bush's eye-popping event. $100,000 per ticket. $100,000. So if you're a couple and you're going to go see Jeb Bush, it's only going to cost you $200,000. Let's see here. Jeb Bush will raise money on Wall Street on Wednesday at an eye-popping $100,000 per ticket Park Avenue event hosted by private equity mogul Henry Kravis and his wife. The price of admission to the event, which will raise funds for Bush's Right to Rise super PAC, surprised even Wall Street veterans used to high-dollar fundraisers. Yeah. Later on, it says here, Bush's schedule in New York on Wednesday also includes a luncheon with former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger. They meant former war criminal, still is a war criminal, which was first reported by the New York Observer. And, of course, he's going to be meeting with him. I only imagine all the other people he's going to be meeting with after he met with Romney, and who knows what they did behind closed doors. Let's see here. Just a couple days after that was on Wednesday. Fast forward to Friday. Former Florida Governor Jeb Bush said on Friday he has given out more than $100,000 to fellow Republicans. Bush's political committee, Right to Rise, announced it. They're going to give, handing out $10,000 to Republican state parties in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada, and Florida. States that will be among the first to hold nominating contests in the 2016 primaries that decide the party candidates for the election. Is that just a coincidence that he's giving money to those states? You see, these establishment folks got to keep on coming up with tricks up their sleeve after Ron Paul's campaign, the 2012 campaign. They just got to come up with anything and everything they can to keep their establishment candidates, because they don't have any real support. Who's listening to Jeb Bush? Who is going out buying tickets besides the establishment to listen to this guy? His committee also gave out $5,200, the legal maximum, to 14 Republican lawmakers. Among the recipients, Senator Chuck Grassley and Representative David Young of Iowa, Senator Kelly Ayotte and Representative Frank Gonta of New Hampshire, and Senator Tim Scott and Representative Trey Gowdy of South Carolina. So I wonder if Gowdy's going to hold his feet to the fire like he does in all of these hearings that I see him in. Jeb Bush, man, there's no way that he could be president. They're going to push for Hillary. That's pretty much what it's going to come down to unless we do something about it. Another interesting headline. Let's see here. Yesterday, Jim Clifton, the chairman and CEO of Gallup, an iconic U.S. company dating back to 1935, told CNBC that he was worried he might suddenly disappear and not make it home that evening if he disputed the accuracy of what the U.S. government is reporting as unemployed Americans. The CNBC interview came one day after Clinton had penned a gutsy opinion piece on Gallup's website, definitely calling the government's 5.6% unemployment figure the big lie in the article's headline. His appearance on CNBC was apparently to walk back the lie, part of the title, and reframe the jobs data as just hopelessly deceptive. No, it is deceptive. Who believes a 5.6 unemployment rate? I don't understand how anybody can read that number or listen to them report that and say, yeah, that's right, we should celebrate. Clifton stated the following on CNBC, quote, "I think that the number that comes out of the Bureau of Labor Statistics and the Department of Labor is very, very accurate. I need to make that very, very clear so that I don't suddenly disappear. I need to make it home tonight." I mean, it's funny, but it's true. I mean, you got to be careful. Some of these people got to be careful on what they say. But you know what? You put yourself in the position. All these people are working for the media, working for the polls, working for Congress. I mean, we're going to have to come out and just speak the truth. Clifton drilled down further in his online opinion piece, writing as follows. Right now, we're hearing much celebration from the media, the White House, and Wall Street about how unemployment is down to 5.6%. The cheerleading for this number is deafening. The media loves a comeback story. The White House wants to score political points, and Wall Street would like you to stay in the market. Of course, keep on spending money. Just keep on buying stuff. Spending money you don't have, buying homes you can't afford. None of them will tell you this. If you, a family member, or anyone is unemployed and has subsequently given up finding a job, if you are so hopelessly out of work that you've stopped looking over the past 4 weeks, the Department of Labor doesn't count you as unemployed. That's right. While you are as unemployed as one could possibly be and tragically may never find work again, you are not counted in the figure we see relentlessly in the news, currently 5.6%. How convenient. You're not counted. So that helps the numbers, obviously. And Ron Paul, one of the only politicians, has been talking about this number being reported incorrectly for years now. Right now, as many as 30 million Americans are either out of work or severely underemployed. Trust me, the vast majority of them aren't throwing parties to toast falling unemployment. Of course, that's because most people are not buying it. It's ridiculous. Let's see here. There's another reason why the official rate is misleading. Say you're an out-of-work engineer or healthcare worker or construction worker or retail manager. If you perform a minimum of one hour of work in a week and are paid at least $20, maybe someone pays you to mow their lawn, you're not officially counted as unemployed in the much reported 5.6%. Few Americans know this. It's, again, I don't know how anybody can buy that number. The number is ridiculous. All you got to do is step outside, drive around, walk around. You're seeing towns that all their businesses are going out of business. Neighborhoods getting worse or looking worse. Let's see here. And you know what? If we were doing better in this country, we wouldn't be seeing this article. Record number renouncing American citizenship. The number of U.S. citizens who have revoked their status reached an all-time high of 3,415 people, a jump of 14% from 2013, according to DeVere Group, a financial advisory firm. See here. Avoiding Uncle Sam appeared to be a prime motivator after a new U.S. tax law was enacted that makes it harder to hide assets from authorities. A survey from DeVere last year found that almost 4 out of 5 of its clients, who are primarily Americans, said that they would consider handing in their passports because of the law, which is called the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, or FACTA. Aside from FACTA, America's tax laws on expatriates, and I know I'm not saying that right, have caused controversy and an outcry over what some say is unfair taxation. The U.S. is the only country that taxes its citizens on worldwide income instead of where they earn the money. That means that an American who lives in Australia, for instance, has to file taxes in both countries, although they are exempt from paying U.S. taxes on their first $97,600 earnings. The surge in passport swapping Americans may slow as citizens grow comfortable with the new regulations, of course, as they become the norm, accustomed to it. And let's see here. It's not a step to take lightly. Once an American gives up their passport, the move is not reversible. The U.S. State Department cautions those considering the move to think it through carefully, calling the step serious and irrevocable. Yeah, well, there's a reason why people want to leave, why everyone has probably thought of it, including me. You know, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll go to Switzerland or something. Maybe I'll go, I don't know, where else is it pretty much free? The whole world is having tyranny right now. But as long as we keep having a police state, as long as we keep having politicians that don't represent us, then we're going to have more people leaving. And so that brings me back to some of the main focus here, talking about the media, the police state, and the activism that we need to focus on. Because what I see, or what a lot of us are doing, is that we just ran in and we're just upset about everything. We're just getting mad, posting stuff on Facebook. But we actually got to get out there and we got to get involved. And one place for sure is in the political parties, because that's where all of the tyranny is coming from. Now, it's the corporations, it's the bankers, but who are they hiring? Who are their gimmicks, their actors, like we were talking about earlier, that they're using to play us pretty much, to rob us, to tell us one thing and then break their promises, like Obama. I mean, Guantanamo still isn't closed. I mean, wasn't that supposed to be like the first 100 days promise? We were supposed to have that closed, and then what do? We have a report that comes out, and nobody is held accountable. Nobody's held accountable at all. You know what? Brian Williams has had more accountability. You know, if you run a torturing scam or a torturing organization like the CIA, nothing happens to you. If you're a cop with a badge and you gun someone down on camera, unarmed, nothing happens to you. If you lie on TV, though, about yourself, not even the lies about Iraq, but the lies about you in Iraq, you get a 6-month suspension, cut pay. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing, the kind of accountability? And then when you watching the news, or we're listening to politicians, listening to these talking heads, and everybody's telling us that we got to come together. We got to talk these things out. We got to figure out a way. You know, we're done with talking. All you need to do is hold people accountable. That's it. Once you hold people accountable, all of their peers are going to get the message. You see, when a cop guns someone down and he gets off, what does that tell all his other cop friends? That they can get off as well. But if one of his friends guns down someone and then they go to jail, then what does it tell the rest of them? That they can be next in line. That they're not above the law either. And that's the point that I'm trying to get across, because I hear too much, everybody going around the point. Just get to the point. They need to be accountable. They need to go to jail, period. And I'm talking about politicians that lie. I'm talking about police officers, people in the media that are in bed with government. Like you hear Obama earlier joking about Brian Williams. You know, they're in the limo riding together. He's at the White House spending the night. They having all these correspondence dinners. Matter of fact, it makes me think about what's that guy's name? Shepard on Fox News. You may know who I'm talking about. When he was, I think it was a few weeks back, he was complaining about Obama in the White House because he went to one of these correspondence dinners, and he felt that they might be mistreating Fox News because their little decoration on their table didn't have Fox News written on it. It just had Fox, and everybody else had news on it. I was like, man, you getting a free meal. They sitting there entertaining you, feeding you, probably giving you free drinks, bringing over your dinner, and then they probably dropping off your talking points right after your dinner, probably. It's amazing how they're just the same thing, and they're in bed with each other. They're all actors. They just play a part. They read a script. They go along with it. You know, and some people say, I like this person I like Bill O'Reilly, but I don't like Anderson Cooper. Or, you know, I like Anderson Cooper, but I don't like, pick one, name one. I don't like Megyn Kelly. Well, what you got to understand is that you don't know who none of these people are. All of them are there to play a part. They are all there to read a script. And maybe we'll get into it next week, but I got a couple of clips I didn't have time to throw in with Brian Williams talking about how everything they write, everything they do is seen by many eyes, goes through many filters. You know, this stuff don't come out on TV by accident. These characters are going by the script that the people you don't see, the people you never see want. The agenda they're pushing, the powers that be, whether it be corporations, the higher-ups in the media, the higher-ups in the White House, no matter where it's coming from, pick it, whoever you think it is. But I'll tell you one thing, those people you're watching, those people you're listening to, they're only doing what they're told. You know, they're like the little guys. Okay, but the problem is in the movement, I see everybody focusing on the big guys. You know, the big guys, of course, are the ones running everything, the powers that be, whether it be, the Republican establishment, the Democrat establishment, the Rothschilds, the Bilderbergs, all of them. But you know what? They don't do anything. They have people that do everything for them, that do their dirty work. And who does their dirty work? The most important people are the ones in the media, because they're the ones that brainwash Americans. So when you sit down and you think about it, you got to ask yourself, why aren't we free right now? Why aren't we having change right now if everybody's upset, everybody's mad? It's because we ain't got enough numbers. We don't got enough people. We need more numbers. So you got to ask yourself then, why don't we got enough numbers? Why don't we got enough people? If everyone knows something's wrong, something ain't right, how come there ain't enough people mad and upset about it or mad at the right thing? And that's the problem, because they don't know what to be mad at. They're brainwashed. You know, they're brainwashed by people that they think are giving them the true facts, are giving them their true opinions, but in reality, they're not. So if Bill O'Reilly is the most loving person or cares about people, it don't matter, because that ain't what he paid to be there for. His personality is what he's paid to be there for. Now, I like to think that's really Bill O'Reilly, but just in case it's not, it doesn't matter. Because, again, they are paid actors. They are professionals. All of them. You know, maybe there's a handful of a few of them. I like the Judge on Fox News. I like him. He's the only one that talks sense. But outside of that, I mean, I like Jon Stewart, but even when he talks about the solutions, I can't agree with him there. But I mean, for the most part, anybody that you could think of, anybody that you listen to, they're all going along with it. Another example, let's think back when Bush was in office. Who was on TV screaming all the time, talking about the Bush's White House and all of the corruption and all the scandals? What's his name? Oberman. Is that Keith Olbermann? Is that his name? Yeah, I remember when I was younger, I used to watch his show all the time, every day, loved it. Soon as Obama became president, it's like that dude got quiet, show went away. It wasn't the same energy when Obama was president. It's like, okay, they're playing their part. So when there's a Republican in office, MSNBC is going to give you a little bit of facts, and they're going to hate a little bit because that's their position. And when a Democrat's president, what's Fox News going to do? They're going to actually give you a few little facts, call out some of his corruption, and then what's going to happen? You're going to fall for it. We got some people in the movement right now jumping on the bandwagon of some of these Fox News hosts, some of these right-wing politicians that pretend to be for liberty, and people get excited about them. I don't get it. You know, my thing is, I don't really ride with anyone except Ron Paul. I just ride with certain politicians on certain subjects or certain bills, certain topics. I'm not a big fan of Ted Cruz, but if we're talking about Obamacare, I'm right there with him. You see what I'm saying? So I like to think that some of them politicians are genuine in some of the votes that they make. But the majority of them aren't genuine in anything because, again, just like the media heads, the talking heads, they're there by their corporations. They're there to play a part. You know, so if a person is pro-life, but he lives in a district where most of his people aren't, what do you think he's probably going to proclaim when he's running for office? He's probably going to run for Democrat. You see what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter what they really are. That's why you see these Republicans that are all against gay marriage, but then you find out that they're gay as well on the low. Matter of fact, they don't have problem. They have a problem with more than just gay marriage. They have a problem with just gay people in general. But then when you dig deep, something comes out, you start finding out the truth, and so that's the problem that we have. We have too many talking heads. So you guys give me 60 seconds here. I'm going to check to make sure my sound is good. Let me know if I'm coming in clear. I want to make sure before I move forward. All right, so let's get back to the headlines here, and then we'll come back to the focus again. U.S. could permanently base warships in Australia. U.S. Chief of Navy Operations Admiral Jonathan Greenert. It's in the early stages, but we are considering it. Reflecting reluctance on both sides to permanently station U.S. troops on Australian soil, a spokesman for Greenert later said the increased U.S. naval presence in the country would be rotational, which he characterized as placing and not basing. Quote, placing and not basing, unquote. Now they don't even want to call it bases no more. Amid long-standing plans to rotate up to 2,500 U.S. Marines at a base outside of Darwin for 6 months every year, Washington has already identified warships which would form an amphibious ready group to support a Marine Air-Ground Task Force. That group would include a large amphibious assault carrier and 2 smaller helicopter carriers. This is our foreign policy. Now we got to have base warships in Australia. We got to be all over the world, all over the globe, in everybody's business. And all for what? Democracy and freedom when we don't even have it here. We don't even have it here. But we want to go spread it around. Now, another article here, U.S. escalating secret war in Afghanistan. I thought the war ended. I thought Obama ended the war to all those Obama supporters. And I told them that he was never going to end the war. The U.S. and its NATO allies formally announced the end of their combat mission in Afghanistan in December and trumpeted the withdrawal of most combat troops. However, under the terms of a security agreement with the Afghan government, just over 13,000 troops, most of them American, were to stay on in an advisory role. However, American and Afghan officials tell the Times that U.S. troops are taking a lead role in the latest counter-terror raids and not merely going along as advisors. Quote, "It's all in the shadows now," a former Afghan security official told the paper. Quote, "The official war for the Americans, the part of the war that you could go see, that's over. It's only the secret war that's still going on, but it's going hard. Oh, that makes me feel better. It's just the secret war. Oh, I don't want you to tap my phone, but if you do it secretly, that's okay." You know, this is ridiculous. News of the increased raids comes one day after the top U.S. military commander in Afghanistan told the Senate Armed Services Committee that he wants greater flexibility in how quickly he pulls troops out of Afghanistan and where he can position them around the country in the coming months. General John Campbell said that by keeping more than 5,500 troops in Afghanistan through the end of the year, he would be able to maintain forces in other locations around the country, both training the Afghan forces and providing support for more counterterrorism missions. Quote, I'm particularly concerned about the summer of 2015, Campbell said. The Afghans, this is the very first fighting season completely on their own. And how much you want to bet they're not going to be on their own? We're going to still be over there. We're going to still be pushing the same wars that Bush was pushing, all under a different banner and a different mission. We're not, they're not fighting troops. They're, whatever the term is that they use, I can't remember it now. They're troops. They're soldiers. They're over there. They're away from their families. They're away from our borders. They're away from our land. So they're gone. So they're at war. That's all that matters. And they want you to think that the wars have ended, but they still got several thousand there. Iraq, Afghanistan, we're just going to have a base there forever. Now, not only is it bad that we're there probably killing people, murdering people, bombing people, but we're not even taking care of our own troops. We got here, Fox News indefensible report reveals extent of burn pit pollution inhaled by U.S. troops in Afghanistan. Toxic fumes from open-air burn pits that were used long after orders to phase them out. A scathing new watchdog report details the extent of the indefensible practice. The report says the U.S. military even spent millions on incinerators as a trash-burning alternative, yet several of them did not work or were never turned on, wasting $20 million and leaving troops to breathe pollution from the burn pits instead. The report coincides with a separate class action lawsuit by hundreds of veterans who say they were sickened by exposure to burn pits over the course of the 13-year war that is moving closer to a trial. Neither the government nor KPR has acknowledged a link between the burn pit emissions and long-term illness. DOD and Veterans Affairs officials contend that studies are ongoing. The VA recently opened an airborne hazards and open pit registry for veterans to share their symptoms and experiences in hopes of learning more. However, on its website, the VA states at this time, research does not show evidence of long-term health problems. And how much you want to bet it will never show that. They don't care. What happened to the VA scandal? What happened to Ebola? What happened to the torture report? All these scandals just come and go, come and go. Well, we had that shooting over in Paris or something, and everything in America don't matter. It's amazing that we send these people off to war, and if you don't support the troops and you pretty much bow to these wars and promote them and support them, then you're wrong when you want the troops to come home, and even the people that want them over there not taking care of them. It's getting ridiculous. We need to be able to take care of our troops and not just say that slogan so we feel good about ourselves. Definitely doesn't help. Give me 1 second here. I'm getting a little feedback. That's what happens on live radio. Just want to shout out Chris, if you're in the chat room still, those that are tuning in. I'm going to try to have this up on YouTube as well so we can have it planned for others and every week have up the show from Occupy the Media. And let's see here. Now, the next news that we have here is Chelsea Manning is in the news. Chelsea Manning joins The Guardian as contributing opinion writer. The Guardian U.S. has hired Chelsea Manning as a contributing opinion writer to cover topics on war, gender, and freedom of information, the website's editor-in-chief, Catherine Viner, announced Tuesday. So I think that's some great news to hear from Chelsea. And Bradley Manning, if you don't know, released all those documents, and it's just sad that he's locked up. Again, you can gun down people unarmed. You can be the most corrupt politician, do all these things, and we come up with excuses why you can't go to jail. But Chelsea Manning is still locked up because she was exposing the truth. Not hiding it, not covering it up like they're doing right now, like they've been doing with Brian Williams, like we were talking about earlier. You think NBC didn't know he was lying all these years? The people he worked around didn't know that? You know, and it's funny now that I think about that. It makes me wonder if it's even a real scandal, if it's a true scandal. Sometimes we got to be careful that we're not seeing it as we're seeing it as a scandal. Maybe we should see it as a distraction. You know, maybe there's something else that's playing in the works behind the scenes that we don't see. You know, I mean, I don't really know who would have all found out if he never came out and apologized. I mean, from everyone I've been talking to, they didn't know what he was lying about until he actually came out and apologized on air. And what happened? Everybody starts putting out the memes and the pictures and the jokes and the articles. And next thing you know, everybody's talking about it. So it's almost like he threw himself under the bus, but nobody saw the bus coming. Not enough people anyways. So we got to ask ourselves, is this something that they're putting forth to us? Is there something else that's being put into play? I question everything I see on TV, everything that I see in the media. One thing I know, though, is that Brian Williams is flat out lying. Everybody else is flat out lying. You can't believe anything they say. I think people watch TV and think, I wonder if they're lying to me. I wonder what they're saying is a lie. What you got to do is look at the TV and ask yourself, I wonder what they're saying is actually the truth. That's how much they lie. There's so little truths in it. They're either flat out lying or they're bending the truth. I think this is interesting right here in RT News. Pentagon dropped over $500,000 on Viagra last year. The U.S. Department of Defense spent $504,000. In addition to Viagra, the Pentagon also ordered $3,500 worth of Levitra and $14,540 of Cialis. Viagra, which is covered by the military's health insurance policy, TRICARE, was first supplied to troops in 1998. The drug became an instant hit for Pfizer when it was authorized for sale in the U.S. a year prior. How many drugs are they giving our troops? Just pilling them up, popping them up. In 1998, the drug cost $8 to $10 a pill. These days, however, due to inflation, due to the Fed, the pills sell for $25 a pop. The Washington Free Beacon estimated that the amount of Viagra bought by the Pentagon last year could have supplied 80,000 hours. 80,000 hours. Now, I think a lot of people will get excited over this article here, this headline. Pennsylvania town packs heat and wants visitors to know it. They want you to know that their residents are packing heat, basically. Drive into tiny Kenoi Townships, Pennsylvania, and you'll see the standard welcome sign. But it also comes with a warning, quote, "This is not a gun-free zone," unquote. These signs are meant to alert criminals to the fact that many people in the rural Pennsylvania town of 3,000 are armed. A dozen have been installed so far, and 3 more are slated to go up, which would cover every major road into the town. Officials hope the signs give would-be criminals second thoughts before causing trouble. Quote, "I think even those who have bad intentions can read," Stephen Moore, one of the township supervisors, told FoxNews.com. Quote, "The intent seems to be to scare those who might consider criminal activity," Goodman added. This is Shira Goodman, executive director of Ceasefire PA. "The likely effect will be to embolden a shoot-first Wild West mentality." Quote, "If you were a thief breaking into homes and businesses, would you choose a city that openly endorses the ownership and training of guns to protect persons and property?" Greenleaf, Idaho Mayor Brad Holton told FoxNews.com his town will consider posting such signs at a city council meeting in March. I mean, I don't know. What would you do if you was a criminal? If you was a criminal and you want to find a town to rob, some small town, find a neighborhood, and you saw that sign outside of a town or a neighborhood, and you knew that all the other towns and all the other neighborhoods didn't have that sign, and that majority of those folks weren't armed and heavily armed. Meanwhile, these folks are so armed, they're willing to put it out on Front Street for you. Where would you go? What would you do? And you see, a little off subject, but to kind of tie it in a little bit, you got to kind of put yourself in the shoes of the criminal to understand what you should be doing. So if you know this sign is going to turn them away and you really are packing heat, you're really protecting yourself, you got the Second Amendment, you know it word for word, you're not going to have too many problems with criminals because they're not going to come and mess with you when they know they can go to people that are unarmed. So we got to think about what it is that the criminals want, what makes their job easier. Now, let's tie that in with the parties, because everybody tells me, the two-party system is criminal politicians. Why am I going to get involved? Why am I going to vote? Why am I going to do any of that? Well, again, put yourself in the shoes of the criminal. Who's the criminal? The criminal is the Republican establishment, the Democrat establishment, and most of us been involved in the Republican Party, so we'll talk about that. What do you think the Republican Party wants you to do? Do you think they want you to show up to their meetings? They want you to call out their chairmen, call out their committeemen and committeewomen, put the cameras on them when they're cheating, force them to call the police and shut down the conventions and cheat us and cut off the lights and push grown men, elderly people to the ground? Do you think they want that? Because that makes them show their hand. They don't like that. Well, you know what they do want? They want you to get out of the way. They want you to stay away. So you want to go run to the outside parties or the third parties, break up into smaller groups. You want to stay away from the enemy, not get involved, just complain or yell from the outside. It's never going to change. But I tell you what, the Republican establishment, the criminal establishment is what we should call them. They don't want you showing up. If you're going to show up to vote and just play along to get along and pick the candidates that they pick for you, then fine. Yeah, get involved. That's what they want you to do. But what I mean is differently. They don't want you to get upset that we don't have paper ballots. They don't want you to, call out the candidates that they bring it up to you. They want you to just to go along and get along. Or if you're not going to stay on the outside and complain, because you're going to break up into smaller groups. You're going to be less of a force to reckon with, and you ain't going to cause no real change. But when you do like what Ron Paul did and what his supporters did and got involved in the system, now you're shaking them. Now you're making them nervous. So nervous that they got to show their hand. They got to force their hand. When you got 8,000 to 10,000 people showing up with a few weeks' notice to a Ron Paul rally and the media don't show up, or the mainstream media don't show up, and all of us know it, what do you think that is doing to all the minds out there, the people that are noticing that? What do you think it's planting that seed? It's waking them up, and they don't like that. But as long as you stay away, long as you complain, long as we don't get involved, they're going to keep doing what they're doing. Why not? Why wouldn't they? Let's get back to an article here. Bloomberg is in the news this week. Take guns away from minority males, former NYC Mayor Bloomberg. To keep them alive, young minority males should not be allowed to possess firearms, former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg said before a sold-out crowd at the Aspen Institute. Quote, "These kids think they're going to get killed anyway because all their friends are getting killed," Bloomberg said on Friday, according to the Aspen Times. "They just don't have any long-term focus or anything. It's a joke to have a gun. It's a joke to pull a trigger." And then further down here, he says, quote, "It's always the poor that get screwed," Bloomberg said before the Aspen Institute. He added that he'd like to write a book about the cycle of poverty. You helping to create poverty. You helping to keep people in poverty. While in office, Bloomberg and New York Police Department officials of his era said the stop and frisk program targeted minorities more often because they were responsible for a higher percentage of crime. However, only 11% of stops in 2011 were based on a description of a violent crime suspect. Furthermore, no research to this day has shown that stop and frisk has reduced violent crime. In fact, as stop and frisk policing has become more limited under Bloomberg's successor, Mayor Bill de Blasio, violent crime has decreased as well. According to the NYPD's 2012 statistics, while 84% of those stopped were black or Latino, the likelihood that an African American would have a weapon during a stop and frisk was half that of white New Yorkers stop. When it came to discovering contraband, officers were a third more likely to find illegal items on a white suspect. Quote, "If you in street stops looking for guns, there will be more guns on the streets and more people will be killed. It's that simple." No. If you have more guns in possessions of people that follow the law, people that follow constitutional law, people that believe in nonviolence, the more guns in their possession, the safer we're going to be. You know, people always say there's going to be a lot of guns and we're going to be like the Wild Wild West and everybody's going to be shooting up each other. That's ridiculous because now you're assuming that everyone that owns a gun is gun crazy and they're just going to go around shooting people. First of all, why would they do that if they know everyone around them is armed and they can get shot themselves instantly? It isn't like the environment we have now where if you go out guns a blazing, you're going to be shooting for quite a while before you get shot back. shot at back because majority of people aren't armed. But I hear this all the time. Everybody is afraid of the Wild Wild West mentality. Well, guess what? We pretty much living in the Wild Wild West mentality. If you a young black minority in the ghettos and you can't protect yourself, it feels like the Wild Wild West. You need to be able to protect yourself, especially if you live in those type of neighborhoods. But yet these politicians want to disarm you. But when Bloomberg walk around, he got bodyguards, and them bodyguards got a bodyguard that they call a gun. So why shouldn't those people have any? Why shouldn't we? The Second Amendment is supposed to be going for everyone across the whole country. Good neighborhoods, bad neighborhoods, poor, rich, middle class, it doesn't matter. And I say as long as the more people that are armed, I say the less tragedies we're going to have as far as crime. And we'll find out with that town. Maybe we'll keep an eye on that town and see what happens with that. Now, I think this is definitely interesting here. Police union leader demands Google disable cop locating Waze app. Edward Mullins, head of the Sergeants Benevolent Association, sent a letter to Google CEO Larry Page Tuesday to demand the company disable the app. He also threatened to take legal action and demanded a meeting with Google officials within the next 10 days. The app provides the locations of parked police vehicles, accidents, traffic cameras, and cops. So they don't want to be located, but all the technology that they use to watch us, to track us, to find us, and then they treat us like you know what. Then they get the police state, and who has to pay for the police state? We pay for the police state. So we get tear gassed, and we pay for the tear gas. And we pay probably taxes on the tear gas. We just getting robbed left and right, no freedoms, and we definitely got to address the police state. Those of us that's going to get involved in the political system, those of us that's going to get involved in the Republican Party, this is something that ties in all Americans, people from all different backgrounds, and we got to recognize that. Matter of fact, one thing I want to jump into about talking about the main focus, the three main things, again, that I was talking about, the media, the police state, and our activism, there is an objective to that. And our objective that we need to have is to get our constitutional rights back and to bring people together. That's the only way it's going to happen. So I don't want this show to just cater to conservatives or libertarians or Republicans. We need to bring everyone of all backgrounds. As long as you for freedom, we can disagree on certain things, but as long as you for freedom and you're for constitutional rights, I don't care what you do. You shouldn't care what I do. And we need to come together, band together, join together, and take back our country and change our country. Occupy Wall Street, Tea Party, independents, anarchists, libertarians, progressives, veterans. And I don't care what religion you are, what nationality you are, yellow, black, white, Christian, Muslim. We got too many people that speak about freedom, but it's only about their kind. People that look like them or talk like them or worship their God. And that's the problem. That's the problem that has to stop. We have to basically come together and realize, you know what? It don't matter what God you pray to or what God I pray to. Neither one of us is going to be praying to him for much longer if we don't get our act together and start fighting for our rights and our freedoms. You know, we don't need to come together on Sunday morning, but the rest of the week, we need to find some time to come together. Sunday morning, go to your church, I go to mine. and as far as me, I'll stay home while both of y'all go. But we got to recognize that we got to come together regardless of what our background is, what we call ourselves. You know, I hear libertarians taking shots at the anarchists, anarchists taking shots at the libertarians, and really I'll march with anybody. You know, it just really doesn't matter to me. Another article, FBI director admits unconscious racial bias exists among cops. FBI Director James Comey made the remarks Thursday at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. at a discussion about the relationship between law enforcement and the diverse communities we serve. Singling out the deaths of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, and Eric Garner in Staten Island, New York, as well as the December 2014 murder of 2 NYPD officers amid growing anti-cop sentiment, Comey said the rift between minority communities and officers of the law cannot be ignored any longer. Quote, we can drive around these problems, he said, or we can choose to have an open and honest discussion about what our relationship is today. Comey, though, also blamed the, quote, widespread existence of unconscious bias. Many people in our white majority culture have unconscious racial biases and react differently to a white face than a black face. Now, you know what? That is irrelevant, is what I have to say. That it's irrelevant what you think when you see someone. This is why it goes back to me talking about accountability. It don't matter what you think about someone, honestly. If you got prejudges or you're racist on the low or whatever, it don't matter. Even if you're a racist cop, it don't matter. I don't care what you do or say when you behind closed doors, when you with your wife, you in the privacy of your own home. You have that right to think what you want about me or my color or anything. But you can't act on those feelings if you're a police officer or an FBI and use that as some excuse, something that we have to talk about, something that we have to figure out, something that we have to come together and learn one another. And what is there to learn? What is there to talk about? People don't like getting shot when they ain't doing nothing. It's simple as that. People don't like being killed. People don't like being pulled over for no reason. It's that simple. And as long as these cops keep getting away with it, all of this talk is irrelevant. If that cop got a problem with certain people, it don't matter, because if he knows he's going to go to jail, he going to keep his feelings and his actions, all that stuff inside of him. He's going to keep it there. He's going to suppress it. And if he can't suppress it, he's going to end up getting fired, going to jail, or quitting because he knows he can't handle the job. And that's what needs to happen. All this outside talk is irrelevant. It's just so much hot air going around when I hear a lot of people talking. It's irrelevant. Put them in jail, lock them up, and watch the system change on its own. That's what I'm about. That's what freedom and justice is going to bring us. Everybody looking to fix the problem. Everybody got the answer. No, the answer is freedom, and it'll fix itself. You start putting these politicians in jail. You start putting these cops in jail. You start calling out all of these media talking heads, just like you did Brian Williams, and you force them to fire him, and you will see a change come. You will see it come on its own. So when I was talking about these big players that everybody's going after and everybody's yelling about, the Bilderbergs and all these secret societies and government officials, what about the little guys? You get rid of them, what happens? The small guys doing all the dirty work. It's going to change on its own. It's going to destruct on its own. It's going to fall on its face on its own, because it ain't going to have anything holding it up. Those little guys are holding it up. The Bill O'Reillys, the Anderson Coopers, the Brian Williams, they are holding all these guys up through their propaganda, through their microphone, through their TV camera, because we keep letting them, and we keep getting so mad at all the big players. We ain't getting mad at the guys doing the dirty work. Once we start going up to them, once Anderson Cooper and Bill O'Reilly and Brian Williams, once all of them got to admit to lies and all of them got to come off of the camera for 6 months suspension, once all of them face that and all of them are ashamed to show their face in public, then you're going to start seeing the truth come out on the media. And once you start hearing the truth come out on the news, what's going to happen to the people? They're going to start to change their mind, the way they think, because now they're getting the truth. That's why I don't spend all my time yelling about the Black Pope and Zionists and all this other stuff going on, because I'm going to deal with what I can see. And I'll tell you what, Anderson Cooper, Aaron Burnett, Bill O'Reilly, all these people, man, they're sitting there getting paid top dollar. Brian Williams, $10 million a year to sit there and lie to me and do the dirty work for all these other guys. Only people worse than the criminals are the people that cover up for the criminals, that lie for the criminals. And that's the media, CNN, Fox News, MSNBC. That's what we're going to be focusing on with this show. Those are the top three right there. And then ABC, throw them in there. New York Times, all of them. They're just tricking the public, and they're making our job harder. And as long as we keep focusing on those big guys, we're going to make our job harder, because we ain't dealing with the people doing the dirty work, the people that are out there working every day for the enemy on camera. I find this interesting. Ramsey Orta, who filmed Eric Garner's death, arrested for drug dealing. So they said that Eric Garner was dealing drugs or cigarettes. Now they're going to get this guy. Let's see here. Ramsey, his mother, and his brother were among 7 charged with dealing drugs Tuesday in Staten Island criminal court, the source said. Orta and the others are accused of dealing heroin, crack, marijuana, and a long list of other things. Let's see here. Orta's mother was released without bail, was held on $100,000 bail. The Staten Island man whose cell phone video captured the police chokehold death of Eric Garner was caught also on video selling drugs to undercover cops, a law enforcement source said Tuesday. He took the video, a police source said of Ramsey Orta. Now we took the video. You see, they're going to get back at you. You know, it's amazing. The cops are going to get mad at him because he is filming the cops and holding the cops accountable. You see, what amazes me is that the cops aren't mad. You see, who should be more mad about police brutality than anybody else? It might surprise you, but I'm going to tell you. The police, the cops. Nobody should be more mad at the police than the police itself. And you know why? Because every time one of these crooked cops go out there and kill someone unarmed, they create more commotion, more hatred. They stir up all this trouble in the community. And then what do all the other all the other cops become? They become a target for the crazies out there, the people that can't take it no more, the people that are upset. Now those cops' lives are in danger. Every day they leave their wives, they leave their families, they leave their homes. Their life is now put in more danger because of the other cops that want to do whatever the hell they want to do and get away with it. And the people ain't going to be having that. And what happens? These 2 NYPD cops get shot down. People aren't saying it's right, but it is to be expected. That's what happens when cops go on killing sprees like they are right now in this country, and they keep getting away with it. It's mind-blowing. The police should be more mad than anybody. Your life's in danger because of your peer, and you should be pissed about it. Now, Florida lawyer, viral video sparked debate about motorist rights at police DUI checkpoints. Let's see here. Drivers at drunken driving checkpoints don't have to speak to police or even roll down their windows. They just have to place their license and registration on the glass along with a note saying they have no comment, won't permit a search, and want a lawyer. At least that's the view of a South Florida attorney. Warren Redlick contends the commonly used checkpoints violate drivers' constitutional rights. He and an associate have created a website detailing their tactics. They've even made videos, one viewed more than 2 million times on the internet, of their refusals to interact with the police. And that's right. We don't want to talk to the police. We're too scared to talk to the police. And then when you're just driving home from work one night, you got to go through a checkpoint. And if you look a certain way, talk a certain way, or you dealing with a certain cop on a certain day, you don't know if you're going to get through it. They could say you got a gun. They could say that you were drunk. They could say that you were reaching for their gun like they always do. These checkpoints just give them more opportunities to implement the police state and to take away our freedoms and to do what? To brainwash us, to get us accustomed to these checkpoints, just like they do with the TSA, get you accustomed to being searched. I got another here, ABC News. U.S. senators urge New York court to make drone killings memos public, saying the government cites national security too often to shield information from scrutiny. Four U.S. senators urged a federal appeals court Wednesday to divulge more about rules it follows when it makes U.S. citizens the target of anti-terror drone strikes. The filing with the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Manhattan supported arguments made in the Freedom of Information Act lawsuit brought by the American Civil Liberties Union in the New York Times. The litigation already has forced the release of a heavily redacted July 2010 41-page memo that said a targeted killing of a U.S. citizen is permissible under a law based by Congress shortly after the September 11 attacks. And everyone should want to know more about these drone attacks. Were about us killing people. Innocent civilians go unnoticed. Names are never heard. But when a few people in Paris get killed, everybody's going to hear about it. And now we got to go fight terrorism. But what do you call it when you're getting bombed by U.S. foreign policy? That's terrorism in your eyes if you're on the other end of it. So we got to call it what it is. And we got to address terrorism everywhere. Now, we need to address the solution, though. I mean, those people in Paris, I don't believe they have the Second Amendment. So if they were armed Would the same thing have happened? But no, everybody on Fox News, MSNBC, especially Fox, they're supposed to be for our rights, right? They're supposed to be for freedom now that Obama's in office. But none of them talking about the Second Amendment rights. Everybody just want to go bomb everyone. That's the answer to everything. Let's just bomb them. Let's just kill them. Never mind the father that you're going to piss off when you kill his kid. Now he's going to become a terrorist. The family members that lose their family members. Now you're just creating more and more terrorism. That's what these secret drone killings are doing when we don't know about it. We just be creating more terrorism, more hate. But you know what? We don't love the troops, though. When we want to stop the wars, stop the drones, stop these soldiers from having to work these drones from an office and kill people. Matter of fact, in the Daily Mail this week, quote, "I didn't think of Iraqis as humans," says U.S. soldier who raped 14-year-old girl before killing her and her family. Now, how much you want to bet? This guy was pretty much brainwashed by our military, by our government. And we go over there, do these horrible things, and then we do horrible things to our own troops, our own brothers, our own sisters, and we just creating hate, stress, depression, envy, greed. We're just creating all the things you can think, all the bad things you can think of, we're just creating around the world. Whether we're on one side of foreign policy or the other, whether you create giving the tyranny or you getting the tyranny. And it's got to stop. And that's what we got to do with this show. And we got to create a movement where those of us that think alike, see alike, and we see the problem for what it is. And what's the problem? The media, the police state, and the lack of activism, the lack of numbers, the fact that we don't have the masses. And we need the masses. We need more people. I hear some people say, "Oh, forget the sheep. We don't need the sheep. Forget them." Well, I'm going to tell you something. The sheep outnumber us a whole lot. And if we want to change this country and we don't want to give up our passport, we better start thinking about planting more seeds. You better start grabbing a whole bunch of seeds and start planting them all over the place. Because people don't start waking up, then there ain't going to be no change. Because you're not going to do anything without the numbers. That's for sure. It's just not going to happen. There's no way around it. But when I'm talking about activism, I'm talking about we got to vote. And not because we believe the vote, but because we need to make it harder for them to cheat the vote. And as long as we stay home and nobody shows up to vote, what do you think they're going to do? They're just going to keep reporting numbers that they think you're going to believe. And it don't matter if you believe it or not. You ain't showing up, so you don't know. The people gotta lose that mentality that because the voting system is scammed or because we have fake politicians and fake elections, we gotta stop. That's more of a reason to get involved. Stop thinking that that's the reason not to get involved. That's the reason to get right up there front and center. Because when a whole gang of us, millions of us, show up to vote, show up to the lines, it's going to be a lot harder for them to trick us. And we're all right there. But when we're all home, we're all tuned in to sports and football and reality TV shows and everything else under the sun, then we're not paying attention. We actually start believing and start thinking that Mitt Romney is really a presidential candidate. That's amazing. And all the people that bought into his support, bought into him being an actual candidate. This guy couldn't bring together 12 people, couldn't bring together 20 people, had a football stadium, and it was so small as far as the group of people that they just all stood on the field. They didn't even sit in the stands. But this guy's supposed to be the top-tier candidate. Meanwhile, Ron Paul's going town to town, college to college like a rock star with all these people, but CNN ain't there, Fox ain't there, but, they're there for Mitt Romney, though. It's all manufactured. It's all scripted. It's like America is a big Jonestown. We're all just drinking the Kool-Aid. We're all just going along. And something in us is telling us something ain't right, but we ain't focused on it because we got our mind focused on something else that's less important. So I'm hoping with this show that we can bring people together, like minds, and we can start getting active and not being a show where I just report the news, but a show that we actually report where changes are being made. Who has the momentum? Who's changing the party? Who has the most numbers, higher numbers? What's going on? What candidates do we have that's running for office? That's what we need to do. We need to start getting things done. It's the only way we're going to become free. And so we're talking about protesting. You know, one day, I hope it comes in the near future where the people could become so upset with the Brian Williams of the world that they start showing up. They start showing up to the media stations and they start protesting. They start coming together in mass. That's what we got to do. Get involved locally as well. And the police state just got to stop. Again, it just goes back to accountability. As long as we have accountability, things will fix itself. I'm a true believer of that. I mean, just ask any parent that if you discipline your kid, they're going to shape up. If you don't discipline your kid, they're going to know they can get away with it, and they're going to keep doing what they've been doing. And I'm hoping one day we can use Occupy the Media to create local chapters across the country where people can talk about local politics and get involved and actually bring together podcasts and radio shows with hosts that are actually promoting things that are getting done. When I hear some of these radio show talk show hosts talk about everything that's wrong, everything that's bad, all the corruption, all the scandals, but never want to talk about what needs to get done. Well, when it's during election season, we need to be involved as much as we can in the conventions, as much as possible in these conventions where they're cheating us and supporting our delegates and at least exposing it. That's what we got to do. Expose the solution. Maybe that should be the phrase right there. But we got to bring change on. We got to occupy the media, bring down the media, expose them because they are public enemy number one. And a few more articles that I wanted to get to, but before the show, trying to make sure we had our sound right, I didn't get a chance to get through all of it. So I want to thank any and everyone that tuned in, and I'm going to start trying to put the show up on YouTube every week, so those that weren't here can tune in, check out what they missed, and then others can spread the show around. But Chris, Aaron, anybody else that tuned in, that dropped in, I've been going back and forth with my articles. I see a couple of posts here from Chris. Definitely appreciate it. And, tell everybody about the show. We're going to be trying to get some interviews here in the near future as well, so we can start interviewing people that are actually victims, people that are actually either involved or they're victims of the state. We got to get these stories out there. The media don't talk about all the stories. You can go on Facebook and find out about all the police brutality, but you turn on the TV, you're going to think that unemployment numbers are low. But anyways, I'm going to leave it at that. Again, thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Paco Elijah. You're listening to Occupy the Media. Next Sunday, 7 p.m. Pacific, don't forget. And we have the website coming out soon, too, occupythemedia.com. All right, peace.